Oh, yeah, I've got to work now. Okay. Oh dear. We have the question box. Is it heavy tonight? Light! Yay! Well done. Wow, it is light too. You want an early night tonight? You know, sometimes these questions which I answer, sometimes you can, just one question you can actually do a half an hour talk on. Okay. The Visuddhimagga proposes 16 stages of insight. Is there a correlating or equivalent map in the suttas? If not, do you think it is a useful model of describing the meditative process? No. They have something similar. Oops, I've got the hiccups. The 16 stages of hiccups. Now they've got in the Ratapala Sutta, there you have, the different stages of insights, which was suggested by Venerable Ratapala. And I remember having a really nice privilege of once, I do go traveling, and once as a monk I was invited to go to Sri Lanka, to the Forest Hermitage in Kandy, and there I just had some very good fortune. There you saw Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, who was looking after Venerable Nyanaponika. Nyanaponika was a wonderful author, and he did a lot of translations. And one thing that I saw of Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, you've heard his name on many, many books. You may have even seen him. But I was just watching Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi be the upatak of this very old monk who's going to die soon. And he was looking after him so beautifully. It was a part of monastic life I'd never seen before. How a student was looking after their teacher, just basically looking after him with so much kindness. And that really impressed me. But because I was there, we often had little chats about the Dhamma. And one thing which he did say about those 16 stages of insight, this was Venerable Nyanaponika. And he was actually saying that, that Buddha wasn't teaching this, even though it was in the suttas, it was Venerable Ratapala. And he said, sometimes people take those a little bit too strictly. You don't need to go to stage 1 and then to stage 2 and then to stage 3 and then to stage 4 and then to stage 5. Instead, he said, that's a possibility, but it's not the only possibility for insights. Sometimes people get insights really quickly, and almost like they jump other insights, as long as there's enough insights there to see, what the cause of this problem is. And I love talking with the monks about this, because sometimes that, we say that we're just talking recently about Chula Hattipadopama Sutta. No, that's not the right one. This young monk, his brother was a monk, and his younger brother became a monk, but he had a very difficult time to meditate and to become enlightened. And his brother suggested he just take a rag and just keep rubbing it on his hands. And that was enough for him to understand not just how things change, but how things usually start as quite pure and beautiful, and then after a while they get dirtier and more repugnant. And that was enough for him to break through and eventually become an arahat. So for those of you, all these teachings of jhanas haven't worked yet. Please get a rag from the kitchen. You think that will work with somebody? Don't know, okay. Maybe a chance. But the main point is, you need to have enough kind of commitment. And how do you get commitment? To keep on a practice long enough. You get the commitment to continue a practice long enough because it interests you. And one of the ways it interests you is, creating some joy when you love doing it. I'm saying that because of my interest in meditation all these years. I really enjoy meditating. I get some fun out of it, I always did. And that's kind of what hooks me, to keep me committed to something, to taking it deeper and deeper and deeper every time, instead of wandering off all over the place. Sometimes there's other things I could be doing in life, but no, I like meditating. When you have the joy in it, it's fun to do. I don't know how many people I've seen just looking at the sunset or watching the stars at night. Why do you do that? Do you make a resolution? I'm going to watch the sunset, and I'm going to stand perfectly still. I'm going to watch the sunset in that direction for half an hour. I'm not going to move. No one ever does that. You do it because, you see the sunset, and it's a very nice sunset tonight, or you see the stars, and it creates some peace and tranquility for you. And it's a pleasant abiding. And because of that, you can watch the stars for a long period of time. That was the argument I used for people who enjoy going fishing. I said, don't put a hook on. Then it's far more peaceful. And you can stay there for all afternoon, just sitting there with a line in the river and enjoying the peace and quiet of the river without it being disturbing. So a lot of the time, the commitment comes from the joy. And when you're committed to something very still and peaceful, what does that do to your mind? You're happy being here. You're content and easily satisfied, which means that things like restlessness, that hindrance, just don't occur, or it doesn't occur very much. And because of the restlessness, the wandering mind, that's where we get the sloth and torpor from. Those two go together. If you're just very peaceful, the sloth and torpor doesn't come up. It's not there. That's why I've often said to you, sometimes when you get into some nice meditations, you can't sleep at night. You don't want to, you don't need to. So you've got sloth and torpor and restlessness. With that also, you've got the ill will and wanting. And after a while, when you're content, you don't want anything. If you're just really peaceful, are you happy to be here? And sometimes in this retreat centre, you've been here for over a week now. Have you come to that point now? I'm just happy to be here. I don't want to go anywhere. Even just that absence of wanting is a beautiful, beautiful state of mind. And when you don't want anything, there's no ill will. So all these hindrances are disappearing. And it's because they're disappearing, that's when the happiness and joy get more and more and more. And then you realize this is real happiness, real joy. It's not your happiness because you're told, if you pass this exam, then you'll be happy. It's actually right here. And that's the 5 hindrances disappear so easily. And so when they disappear really easily, they can stay disappeared for a long time. And your mindfulness gets so strong. And sorry I can't help but keep repeating these stories. Sometimes what you see with your eyes and what you hear becomes so much more beautiful. The sound of the birds in the morning. Oh, you've heard them before. But sometimes, after a good meditation, you go out and you can hear so much more. I don't mean more different sounds, but it's deeper. It's more gorgeous. It's as if these are special birds, which are playing an orchestral piece for you. They're not ordinary birds, but birds have been trained in music. I don't know, sometimes what I think, how can these birds sound so beautiful? And I just remember all these times when I used to... It's really weird because I remember my time at college, and in those times at college there were so many really skilled musicians in the college. And when they would play, sometimes I didn't know they were rehearsing for something. I just walked past the room where they were rehearsing. And I couldn't walk any further. It was really gorgeous. I wasn't an aficionado of music, but what I heard was really such high quality. Was it? Or was it I just come out of a meditation? If you come out of a meditation, it sounds, wow, you don't want to go any further. Even sounds are gorgeous. And when you see, and food is really delicious. Now, honestly now, for those of you who come on this retreat, is the food more delicious than usual? You expect? Be honest. If it is, it's got nothing to do with the cooks. I'm sorry about that, but that's being true. It's got everything to do with your mindfulness has increased. If you hear, you've heard all of my stories and jokes so many times. If this is a very funny joke, it's nothing to do with the quality of the telling. It's everything to do with your mind is like soft and receptive. Basically, you get so much more fun and happiness after you meditate. You see so much beauty in all the sort of places you never expected to see beauty before. One of those stories, I haven't told it yet, even my first meditation retreat, and it was in our Cambridge University Buddhist Society. And so, I knew the area where they were doing this retreat. And every morning we were allowed, 1 hour of exercise. So you go on a walk somewhere, get out and just walk down the street or somewhere. And I knew the area. And there was the Cambridge Botanical Gardens, just 5 minutes down the road. I still know the area, Bateman Street in Cambridge. And the bottom of the street, there's a back entrance to the Botanical Gardens. I thought, that'd be a nice place to have some exercise. But this is what I experienced. At the entrance to the Botanical Gardens in Cambridge, the back entrance, there was a clump of bamboo. And when I first saw that clump of bamboo, I couldn't believe just how beautiful it was. There's something about bamboo, that's why it's in nearly every Chinese watercolor painting you could ever see. And I know why now, because just the slender stems of the bamboo and the colors. It's not really hard colors or gross colors. It's just the pale yellow and how it just fades, and as it goes up the stem of the bamboo to a greenish color, and just the way those different shades of yellow and green interact, and just the leaves themselves. The leaves are not just fat and gross; they're so slender and coming to a little point at the end. And the way that it was like bending in the wind and swaying with the wind in the morning. It was captivating. And I do remember clearly the first day I saw that in the morning, I just was transfixed with a clump of bamboo. And I stared at it for about, I was supposed to be walking and exercising for about 15, 20 minutes. And then a thought came to me, if somebody sees me, this student, totally still, staring at a clump of bamboo, they'll call the doctors to take me away. No one does that. But there was a bench, a garden bench, close by, so I sat on the bench. And I thought that would, sitting on a bench watching a clump of bamboo was kind of acceptable. Standing and staring was not. So I sat down. And I had to leave only because it was breakfast time. And then I went back there the next day, and the next day, and the next day. For 8 of the 9 days, I went back to the most beautiful clump of bamboo I'd ever seen in my whole life. It really was captivating. That was the best word to use, captivating, because I couldn't ignore it. And after the retreat, I didn't get much exercise, obviously. But I was a young man, there's other ways to find exercise. After the retreat was finished, one afternoon, I had a free afternoon. So let's go and see the most beautiful clump of bamboo in the whole world. And I got on my bicycle and cycled to Bateman Street and down the bottom of Bateman Street. I was really excited. For 4 days I hadn't seen it. Now I had a free afternoon, I can just go and really enjoy it. And when I went in the gate, excited, I looked at that clump of bamboo. It was the most desiccated, dry, malnourished. You don't grow bamboo in UK, it's not the right climate. And then I what? Where was that beauty which I saw every day when I was on retreat? And that was the insight which I got. When the mind is very peaceful and still, things look totally different. And you can watch them for hours. But when I was busy, tired, messing around, I couldn't see that beauty anymore. That was really important insight for me. If you're going to be still and watch something for a long time, when it's beauty, it's not a problem at all. You can sit and watch for hours and you don't move. You don't want to move. Because what you're enjoying is so satisfying. The most beautiful bamboo you've ever seen. That's how meditation works. So the stages of insight, once you have that stillness there, and it's beautiful, insights come to you. Otherwise, what people do, they look at the 16 insights, okay, I got number 1, what's number 2? And you got number 2, but there's only sort of another day to go for our retreat, so you better hurry up. That's what stages do to you. They're the things which actually kind of generate the wanting and spoil the whole meditation. That's one of the reasons why what I said this morning, you go in to the next stage, never on to the next stage. And that's a very important metaphor. You don't read that anywhere. That comes from Ajahn Brahm. But that's how it works. So I don't know how many stages there are. You just go in and in until you get to the very center. You don't need to count them. Dear Ajahn Brahm, thank you very much for a wonderful retreat and for your excellent teachings. I gained some great experience and perhaps some wisdom. Let this be your last life. Are you wishing me to die? Is that a noble intention? That's a nice thing, you don't make plans. See what happens. I don't know why people, even sometimes they wish you happiness in the future. Do you want to be happy in the future? Thank you for not answering. These are always loaded questions. Find happiness now, not in the future. If you want to be happy in the future, then you've got all the stages of happiness. Do this one first and that one next. And that's where the meditation really sort of starts to fall apart. And someone says, have you done stage 3 yet? All these stages of enlightenment, where are you? How long have you been nuns? How long have you been a nun? 12 years. So what stage are you on? You can see how the whole thing gets messed up when we think these are attainments. We measure ourselves by attainments. And we say, how long you've been doing this, and this is what you should be getting by now. Sometimes, I used to ask Ajahn Chah, I've been meditating all these years. How advanced are you? I can't say. He never told me. We're not supposed to tell people. How advanced is Ajahn Brahm? How advanced is who? Who's he? Okay, let's make it more specific. How advanced is Ajahn Brahm's first khandha, the body? It's not very advanced at all, is it? It's fat, slow. Not very impressive, is it? Okay. What about his Vedana? How does Ajahn Brahm feel? Yeah? Oh, you've seen me many times. Great. No, that's my body. It's great. How can you measure an enlightened one? What makes them enlightened? What are you actually describing? Is it their Vedana is enlightened? It comes and goes. What about their perception? Is their perception enlightened? No, that just comes and goes. What about their will, the sankhara? Is that enlightened? What about their 6 consciousnesses? Is that enlightened? How do you describe enlightenment? And what gets enlightened? I've already told you that you disappear. Has Ajahn Brahm disappeared? Or does he get fatter and fatter and fatter and tells the same silly jokes again and again? Why don't they disappear? So a lot of times, when we're trying to find out who's enlightened and who's not, and how enlightened are you. This is something you find as there's actually a rule against this. The monk shouldn't tell. Sometimes you wonder, why not? Because it misses the point often. You disappear. You don't become famous and tell other people all your amazing qualities. Sometimes when I was young, I always wanted to find who was enlightened. And then sometimes you go and ask them, are you enlightened? And he said, he who says doesn't know. He who knows doesn't say. We have all these wonderful sayings to avoid being totally honest. It's kind of a silly question. But sometimes people think if you have some psychic powers, that makes you enlightened. That's really dangerous, because sometimes people think that if you have psychic powers, you must be spiritually very advanced. But there's one monk I like to talk about, and this monk was Indonesian. And I remember meeting him, and he telling me his story. It was quite inspiring. He decided to be a rishi, like a hermit, in the middle of Java somewhere. His name was Sudammo. I can tell his name now because he's passed away. And Venerable Sudammo, he started life just, as a lay person, being simple, going out into the jungles, being a hermit there. And he told me the thing which changed his life. And that was he sat down and he got into a very deep meditation. And I asked him what happened. He said, first of all, that English wasn't his first language, and Javanese was not my even middle language. So he tried to speak in English, and he said, this is interesting for you to hear, that he was sitting peacefully in the jungle, and his body started to vanish. And when his body started to disappear, he saw this beautiful star, come right towards him. That's what he called it, a star. And actually, what do we call it? What's the Buddha called it? He calls it nimitta, beautiful light. And I really liked what he said next. He said, he married the star. I said, when we're talking about marriage, the star's got no gender. And he said, that was his word, he united with it. He went right into it, went right into him. And that's actually what happens, to get into what happens, a great description, if English is not your first language, of what jhana means. And then what happened? He's there for days, breathing out. And we know that because when he came out of his meditation, the forest, the jungle around him had changed. It was not how he remembered it. So he asked the villagers, and they said, oh, you're still alive. There'd been a flash flood in that part of the jungle. He'd been underwater for many days. That's one of the things I keep telling you. I tell these stories, please don't be afraid. You get invulnerable. Nothing can hurt or harm you. If you're in a jhana and it floods, well, fine, you're not breathing anyway. And just when the floods go, you can come out. And that's actually where he got his power from. I remember the first time I saw him, I'd heard there was a monk who was staying in BSWA who had experiences like that, but as soon as you saw him, I remember I was walking with another monk, said, that monk's a very powerful monk. You could feel his power. And anyway, he started teaching, and one of my friends, she was a princess in the Tyrol family, but she was a rebel, and she went to Chelsea Art College. And there she met and married one of the other members of Chelsea Art College who used to go to my old high school. And he actually got kicked out of Chelsea Art College. Now, Chelsea Art College was where people like Mick Jagger and Pete Townsend, where they went to study. They never got kicked out. It was a radical place. So get kicked out of Chelsea Art College, you had to be really naughty. So anyway, believe it or not, they were my friends. Yes, gosh, indeed. And anyway, when she got interested in Buddhism, she went to, basically it's been on my recommendation, she went to Wat Bawang where this Venerable Sudama was teaching meditation. I said, no, he's a good meditation teacher, he's had experiences. And this is what she told me. Now I've got absolutely zero doubt this actually happened. She was meditating there, everyone with their eyes closed. And he was in front. And she felt that there's something sort of weird going on. She opened her eyes. And she said, honest, Ajahn Brahm, I would not lie to you. There were rays of light coming out of this monk's eyes into one of the other meditators. Would you like to see something like that? Actually, no, you wouldn't. Because she saw this, she was a highly educated, wonderful lady, this Thai princess. And then she saw these lights coming out of this monk's eyes into this woman. It freaked her out. It was so weird. When you see these things, real things, not fake things, she got up, bowed, and never went back again. And they say things like that in the sutras as well. Even great disciples of the Buddha. Basically, this stuff is scary. And you've experienced some of that scariness. When you've gone into meditation, you've got a little bit of an nimitta coming up. You're starting to become still. I still remember giving a talk about meditation in Singapore. And one person came up and said, "I'm not coming back again." Why not? I was meditating, my hand started to disappear. That was so freaky. There's many things which are challenging you. And when they challenge you, you do get scared. So be careful. You getting scared? No. But those things actually exist, and it's nice to know they exist. Anyway, Ajahn, in the Buddha's words and instructions were so simple, why did the Mahayanans and Vajrayanans have to make it so complicated with 21 towers, bodhisattvas, bells, gongs, drums, etc.? I feel like it arouses more energy than stillness. Is it a case of cultural manifestations? It really confuses me. It's more cultural. What happens is that Buddhism dissipated, went to different places. We have the Buddhism of Sri Lanka. They went south. They went to Thailand and many other places that way. And then Buddhism also went north. And after the Muslim invasion in the 13th century of India, that really separated Buddhism, the north and the south. And we didn't have newspapers or TV stations or anyone they could communicate together. What is very nice now is you see that we do move around, we give talks together. We have many people here from South Korea. South Korea, is that Theravada or Mahayana? One of the strongest traditions there is the Mahayana Jogje order. Is that correct? And many of you have seen me give talks in South Korea, in the Jogje temples. And it's one of the monks over there, Venerable Gaksam, Sunim. He became a disciple of mine, even though he's a well-known teacher in the Jogje order. Is Venerable Gaksam Mahayana or Theravada? Which one is he? We don't even worry about those things anymore. He was doing these koan sort of meditations. They weren't working for him. So he came over to Bodhinyana Monastery. I think was it for a rains retreat or for a month? I think it was a rains retreat. And he said, the instructions which I'm giving you, he actually followed them, and he said he got the most peaceful, joyful meditation he's ever had in his life. And he thought, I haven't converted to being a Theravada. This is just Buddhism. And so he wanted me to go over there to teach you guys when I first went over there, to try and get some other meditation methods clearly explained so you could enjoy other types of meditation. So Ajahn Brahm, what tradition do you really follow? And those of you who heard me answer this question before, what tradition do I follow? I decided to make a combination of traditions. Take the H from Hinayana. Take the Aha from Mahayana. And the Jhana from Vajrayana. What does that spell? Yes, that Jhana. Ha ha Jhana. I was always being rebellious. And so what that's doing is actually adding that fun, that joy, that compassion, and breaking down the barriers between traditions. Why on earth do traditions need to argue with each other? That means both sides don't understand what they're talking about. I already told a story about quack quack. Was that a chicken, a duck, or a cow? Or actually, it was an elephant. You know that sometimes people say you just tell jokes and funny stories. But no, these are important teachings for each one of you, which is who is teaching the right Dhamma. You can actually look in the suttas, but a lot of times it depends on who's doing the translating of it. That is the fascinating thing. And so, a lot of times I tell that story and people say, look, okay, I can understand the meaning of it, never argue on stupid things. But if it goes quack quack, it must be a duck, surely. Does it have to be a duck? Because I've been telling that story for so many years, people actually, now we have things like internet, and they check it out. And remember, they sent me a link to this story of, and this is real, of this chicken who was orphaned and was brought up by a family of ducks. I have a photo of it, recording everything. There is at least, or there was, one chicken in the world who goes quack quack. Here's proof. It could have been that one. And so it's nice if, like, religions don't argue, isn't it? Okay, once upon a time, the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury, they're both Christians. They don't have too many reasons to argue, do they? Why can't they join together? And so anyway, they decided, when they started talking together, look, we both believe in God. And they thought that, let God decide which religion should be the superior one. So they decided to have a golf match, 18 holes. And whoever won the golf match, they say it must be God's will. And so they can actually lead Christianity in the world from now on. There's no Anglican or Catholic or Greek Orthodox, just Christianity. Let God decide. Would that be a good idea? So this is what happened. I love this story. How many have heard it before? Oh, only one. You've got a very good memory, sir. So they started on the golf course. It was very close on the golf course. And one was leading, then the other was leading. And it got to the last hole, the 18th hole. And the Pope was winning. If he sank this putt, he would win by 2 strokes. And so he asked his caddy, who do you think his caddy was? A nun. Not me. I wouldn't make you be my caddy if I ever played golf. And so he got his special putter, blessed it, and he hit the ball. Too hard. It went past the hole, and it's about 3 foot past the hole. He was excited. The future of Christianity depended upon that putt. And he couldn't help himself but say, damn it, missed. He said it too hard, too loud. And the nun heard that. He said, you know, your what do they call him? Your Eminence? Or, I don't know, I'm not a Catholic. But anyway, he said to the Pope, Your Eminence, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't swear. He said, "Oh, look, I'm very sorry, sister. I was just so excited." But then he had another part, and if he sang this part, he would still win. So he lined it up. And this time he was much more focused. You know what happens when you meditate? You get really focused. And then he hit that putt. It went past again. And he said, "Damn it, missed." And the nun said, "Look, I told you shouldn't say such things, you shouldn't swear." And the nun looked up to heaven. "Look, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, I won't do it again." But this time, if he sang this part, it would be a draw. If he missed the putt, he would lose. And the whole of the Catholic Church would lose. And the Archbishop of Canterbury would take on everything. You can imagine just how much stress that was. So this time the Pope really relaxed, took his time, took the putter, and hit the ball straight towards the hole. But not hard enough. It stopped just before it never fell in. And the Pope couldn't resist. He tried to stop himself saying, "Damn it, missed," but it came out louder than ever. And the nun looked at him, and said, you said you're not going to do that." And then, before she could complete the sentence, there was a big cloud came over the hole, and a bolt of lightning came down and hit the nun, and she died. And the words thundered out from the sky, "Damn it, missed." I'm sorry, I'm a very naughty monk. Okay, now what was I saying before? Okay. So again, sometimes people add all this stuff. And when you're a rebel, you kind of just push all that stuff aside. So, a long time ago, like, say 12, 15, 20 years ago, we never had any nuns. Full, real bhikkhunis. I had to fight for that. And I think, as you know, I got kicked out of Wat Pah Pong for that. He said, "You shouldn't have done that." I said, "Yes, I should." They didn't like an argument. One of the proudest things I've ever done. Why not? It is legal. That's one of the reasons why all those monks knew I knew what I was doing. I was a Vinaya expert. I knew it in Pali. Everything was according to the books. Nothing wrong with it. But nevertheless, they were embarrassed. They didn't do it first. Now we've got them. Not just here. Where have we got them now? All over the place. Over in UK, that's Ayachanda. Over in US, there's quite a few nuns in US. Over in over in Malaysia, there's monasteries over there. And over in, what did I miss out? Sri Lanka, oh yeah. Belgium as well. They say, the Thai monks were right. They said, if you ordain the Ajahn Brahm, there'll be so many of them all over the world. I say, yeah, that's the point. I think that's really cool. Anyway, so even though the instructions are very simple and very obvious, it's kind of why not? To make it so complicated with 22 towers, bodhisattvas, bells, gongs, drums, etc., I feel it arouses more energy than stillness. Sometimes it arouses negative energy. For me, stillness is the most beautiful because it's so rare. And you don't need bells. You know, in this retreat, did I explain to you why we have what's called noble silence? What does it mean, noble silence? No bell silence. Having no bells. It also means that, hopefully I do ring the bell, I'm sorry, for the end of a talk or something. But isn't it wonderful you don't have any bells to wake you up in the morning? Or time to go to bed? So when you're tired you can go to sleep. When you feel like waking up, you wake up. Be natural. Look after your body. There's sometimes you get so much energy you don't want to sleep. But sometimes you're really tired, you need to go to sleep. And of course you're totally allowed, out of kindness, to work with your body rather than work against it. And because so many people practice a real noble silence here, a few people actually win the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm sorry for my sense of humour, but it makes it more interesting. Okay. After experience of anatta, does the body, mind and consciousness disappear when the causes and conditions are in place? Yeah. Is sila the self? No. Oh, is the sila the self-regulating part of the process? It's not as self-regulating, it's like common sense. That's why, when I used to go to the Thai temple, one day, one of the monks there said, "You've been coming here so often, why didn't you take the 5 precepts?" And actually I knew what the 5 precepts were, but I asked him, "What are the 5 precepts?" And he explained them to me. And I said, "The first precept, not killing, I don't kill anything." Even you see when you've got these little, what are they called, millipedes, you try to avoid them every time. You can't go and stamp on them, it doesn't make any sense. And so what about stealing? As a kid, my family were poor. So, I had to take a bus to school every day. And at first I thought, well, if the bus driver or the bus conductor doesn't ask for the fare, you don't need to give it. And later on I thought, I can't do that. That bus company has to pay the bus driver his fees and his wages. And so a lot of times afterwards, if the bus driver never asked for my fare, I'd go up and present it to him afterwards. So you didn't ask for my fare, here it is. You had to do that. You couldn't be sort of dishonest. And what else would I do? I remember just one day, I was really young, and we had this, I think, an Irish sixpence or something. I remember I felt so bad about this because I saw an old man, obviously his sight wasn't good, and said, "Have you got change for a sixpence, sir?" And he gave me 6 pennies. But it was a coin which was not legal tender in UK. I felt so bad about that afterwards. What did I do that for? That's when you practice greed and you felt the pain of it afterwards, and you never ever ever want to do that again. And what is this? Oh yeah, the 4th precept was so easy. Not sensual indulgence. That's the neat. And at that time it was explained that if you had a girlfriend, just one, you don't sort of break her trust. And that was such an obvious precept to take, because I couldn't afford 2 girlfriends. That's honest. And I didn't want her to break my trust. And I realized in relationships, they're built on trust, to make sure you don't cheat on each other. And lastly, alcohol. I told those stories about, how these celebrations when people get drunk, they made absolutely no sense to me. You had far more fun and joy when you never took any alcohol. So the body, mind and consciousness disappear when is sila the self-regulating part of the process? No, sila is like common sense. I can't see why people break precepts, sila. That's why for a long time I told people, look, don't try and find out all the details of the sila so you can find the loopholes. Just find the 2 precepts. People like things being condensed. So the 2 precepts are never doing anything intentionally which harms another being. Never doing anything which harms oneself. Those 2 precepts. I first did that when I taught some school kids. And I said, well, they've heard about the 5 precepts, but what actually are they? They said, not doing anything which harms oneself or harms others. And all the 5 precepts came from that. Sometimes after my deeper meditation, my body gets quite cold. Are reactions like this okay? Sure. But don't worry about the body gets cold. It's not at all harmful. What it is just the body, even the blood is going through nice and peacefully. The body will regulate itself. Trust it, please. Dear Hi Ajahn, thank you for leading us on this retreat and teaching us with dedication. What does dedication mean? Teaching how to be dead? I do teach you how to die. See this beautiful light and go for it. May you stay healthy always. Is that possible? What is healthy? What is the cause of health? Can there be short-term monks and nuns ordinations? Thank you. Yeah, of course you can. A lot of times people ask for short-term ordination. They say, yeah, okay, I'll do that for you, but I'll never disrobe you. You never ask for short-term disrobal. You only ask for short-term ordination. So I'll ordain you when you get stuck. There was one of Ajahn Chah's disciples. He was really good fun. And every year at the rains retreat ended, he would have his suitcase with lay clothes. And he'd go to Ajahn Chah, and he wouldn't hide it, everyone knew about it, and he wanted to disrobe. He didn't want to be a monk. And every time he went there, Ajahn Chah would look at him and say, no. So as Ajahn Chu, he had a wonderful sense of humour. But anyway, he really wanted to disrobe, and Ajahn Chah wouldn't let him. So he went back to his monastery, and next year he did the same again. I think he did it for 5 years in a row. And then Ajahn Chah would say, no. And after 5 years he gave up and stayed as a monk. I can take that as a good example, I think. Could you please elaborate a bit more on contemplation? When and how to contemplate, for example, on feelings and emotions. And you mentioned the contemplation after experience jhana. Could you share a bit more about that with loving kindness? Quite frankly, you don't need to do contemplation. You can't avoid it. If you have a jhana, it's a powerful experience. It's huge. And afterwards you've got the afterglow, you've got really good mindfulness, a lot of happiness. A lot of times that people, what do you do after such amazing experience? Wow, what was that? Contemplation happens automatically. You don't have to do it. You just had the biggest experience of your life. And of course you will look at it, and because you have that clarity of mind, you'll investigate it. Sometimes contemplation, for most people, that's thinking. And I really want to avoid you thinking about things. You're thinking in old metaphors, and this is something completely different. It's one of the reasons why I advise you, if you've had a jhana, just explore. I like exploring. It's much more scientific. Explore what has gone missing. Not what's there, but what's vanished. And that's usually far more powerful. But it's going to happen automatically, you can't not do it. That's why when I saw that beautiful clump of bamboo, I couldn't take my eyes off it. And afterwards, these are experiences which stay with you for your life. Because it's clear mindfulness, powerful mindfulness, it imprints on you. You know, we don't have the English words to describe what's happened, the correct English words. So often I say, it's like trauma. When something very painful, unpleasant, threatening happens to you, can you get it out of your mind? A lot of times, no. And this is the same power, actually more power, but totally pleasant. It's like positive trauma. Even that word doesn't really fix it. But what word is something which is so strong you can't get it out of your mind, which is totally positive and pleasant. That's, these deep meditations. And because of that, whenever you want to explore it more, you just close your eyes and it's not the experience itself, but it's the image of it you can remember so easily. That makes sense to you? You don't even need to try to remember it. It's just so incredibly strong. Okay, at the time of the Buddha, is there evidence of other spiritual schools practicing jhana, or was it discovered by the Buddha and unique to his teaching? At the time of the Buddha, it was unique to his teaching. And I say that on the evidence, before there was jhanas around, but when he arose, that he was the only one, he had to discover it himself. And the reason I say that is because there's one of the stories in the Anguttara Nikaya, in the Chitta Samyutta. Chitta was a general, a layperson, who was very faithful to the Buddha and eventually became a non-returner. He wasn't a monk, he was a layperson. Laypersons can become not just stream winners. Come on, don't just settle for stream winner on these retreats. Go for non-returners. There were non-returners in the time of the Buddha. Why not you now? It's a challenge for you. Anyway, Chitta heard that close by there was the leader of the Jain community, Nigantanataputta, otherwise known as Mahavira. And apparently, most scholars say the Jaina tradition was more strong than the Buddhist tradition. And they were there at the same time, in the same area of India. One of those weird things in the world, that two great traditions arose at the same time. And so Chitta went to see the leader of the Jains. And the leader of the Jains said to Chitta, this is Chitta, a very well-known disciple of the Buddha. And he said that we were discussing, can jhanas exist? Can you make the mind so still that all thought stops? And he said, Chitta, do you believe that? And Chitta, the well-known disciple of the Buddha, said, no, I don't believe that at all. See, the leader of the Jains says, even one of the well-known disciples of the Buddha doesn't believe that rubbish, that the mind can be still and stop thinking. And Nigantanataputta, the leader of the Jains, said, that's like just saying you can stop the current of the Ganges by putting your fist in it. It's too strong, it's natural, people think. You can't stop it. And even Chitta says he doesn't believe that. And then Chitta replied, yeah, I say that because I don't believe it. I know it. Because I enter meditation and jhanas regularly. He said, don't you realize there's a difference between belief and knowing? I don't believe it because I know it. And that's when that's when the leader of the Jain says, these disciples of the Buddha are so tricky and sneaky. You can't have a proper discussion with them. When I first read that, I laughed out loud. Even some of the suttas have these funny stories. And so that was telling me that even the leader of the Jhana tradition didn't believe these jhanas were even possible. To get into a jhana, the thought stops. Afterwards you can think, but when you're actually in there, the mind is still stable. Did I make that point clear enough? Do you believe it? I don't believe it. You know why? Okay. That makes a very fascinating point. Okay. Do we have an idea of the details of his meditative states prior to him developing jhanas, or was it basically just the endurance of severe austerities in the hope of release? It was just the endurance of the extreme austerities. That's one of the reasons why. When he became enlightened, what was his first teaching? Who knows the name of his first teaching? None of you? Sorry? What was it? No. His first teaching was on the middle way. And then he elaborated that with the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. The teaching on the middle way was please avoid the extremes of indulgence in the five senses of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. And if you look at that and notice, there was no mention there of the indulgence in the sixth sense pleasure. The reason for that was because indulgence in the sixth sense pleasure of the mind was the way to jhanas and then to enlightenment. It's a happy path. And the other extreme to avoid is the practices which tire and exhaust the body, the austere ascetic practices. He said that doesn't lead anywhere either, except you get really tired and weak. And then he expanded on that with the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. That's why this is an important part. Please don't be ascetic. If you're ascetic, you weaken your body. And if you weaken the body too much, it's really hard for the body to vanish and disappear as you meditate. Do you understand that? Please, don't get sick. That's why even Ajahn Brahm, he told me, eat more. When I was young monk, I was incredibly thin. And that's why all the monks and nuns, I will keep telling you, if you're sick, do less. Relax more. Please. Do that to the monks. Your health is really important. So you can let go of the body and get into some really deep meditations. You still can get into deep meditations in a sick body, but it's much harder. Do you understand that? Middle way? So will present moment awareness develop in time into silent present moment awareness, and then into silence, joy, piti sukha, thanks, cessation, jhanas. It's amazing. When I saw the word jhanas here, it looked like thanks. That's a very deep connection there between jhanas and thanks. Yeah, it does. That's one of the nice things about the practice. Sometimes you get it started, and you let it go, and off it goes into these deep sort of states of mind in the present moment. This is one of the reasons why, honestly, I just also kind of move away from guided meditations. Too often I've done guided meditations. You start just have present moment awareness, and it's so beautiful. I really get into it. And then everything goes silent, and it gets joyful. And then you get sort of the mind, even if it's not even starts with the breath, nimittas come up by themselves. It's almost like a fast way of getting into it. So I've got to be careful. If I start teaching and practicing present moment awareness, sometimes I'm away. It's also one of the reasons why when Ajahn Brahm was the abbot, we did all this chanting, and sometimes he told me off. Why aren't you chanting? I said, because I can't. Sometimes you start listening to these chants, like even that Metta Sutta, be content and easily satisfied. That's powerful. I don't just think it's just a word. You've focused on that for such a long time. And so just the words, be content and easily satisfied. And that kind of stays with me. And it builds, and it grows. The contentment inside your mind gets so strong. You're so satisfied. You bliss out. I said, that's why I can't chant that, sorry. Because sometimes it's too powerful for me. You just have to go with it. Does that happen to you? What do those words say? To be content, easily satisfied, not proud, no ego, not demanding anything. Why not do it and see what happens? Of course, it's weird. Why am I not doing anything? And all this bliss comes up. And of course, I just let it continue growing. And then, of course, deep meditations happen. Oh, okay. Dear Ajahn and the team, thank you so much for this wonderful retreat. It has all been perfect. I feel so much gratitude. Sadhu. Before we go back to our busy lives, can you please guide us for the transition to avoid disappointments when the mindfulness gets less and meditation's less deep? How to deal with the homecoming? Much metta. Because a lot of time it gets troublesome because you're leaving the real world. Many people ask me that question, what do you do when you go back to the real world? This is the real world. Honestly. Why is it out there, in the shopping centres, in the workplaces, people fake so much? They fake how they look, with hair pieces or with deodorants. That's not how you are. You're faking it. Or other makeup, hiding stuff. Why don't you remember this is the real world, where you don't wear any makeups, where you allow the body to be as it is. We don't try and hide old people or sick people. So this is the real world. So when you go back to home, wherever you live, that is, make sure at 6 o'clock every morning you get up, forget about what your partner thinks, and go, Yo so Bhagawa, this is what should be done, sadhu. Your partner might send you to the funny farm. What happens when you get past fear and excitement and the nimitta stabilizes? How does it feel? Beautiful. The best feeling you've ever had in your life. And that's just the start. What happens next? Obviously, it just pulls you in. Please, if you ever have that feeling, got a beautiful nimitta, that you feel like getting pulled in, go with it, let go, get pulled in. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. I guarantee that. And honestly, I'm so confident of that I'll bend over and you can kick my backside as hard as you like if I'm wrong. Is that a good promise to make? Sometimes, sometimes you feel that, I've seen you, interviewed you, I just said hello to you, and if something like this starts to happen to you, don't throw it away. Just go for it. The best times of your lives. And sometimes people do that. And they never regret it, ever. I have a question about 5 khandhas. Which category does our daily feelings and thoughts belong to? We experience these feelings and thoughts, and they are also the act of will. Thank you. Are they? If they are the act of will, can you say to some of the really bad feelings you have, get out of here? Many of your feelings and thoughts are out of control. That's what the Buddha said. If they really were you and yours, you'd be able to tell them what to do. That was the Buddha's argument in Nathalakkhana Sutta. They aren't yours. So what do? So what? However, she'll be right. You don't worry about them. And then they disappear. They get less and less and less and less and less. You try and control them, and they get much worse. That's what I found out. Remember I was saying I had an attack of restless mind, and then I couldn't stop all those restless thoughts, so I gave myself the opportunity, 3 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, I'd allow myself to think anything, whatever. And that was the most peaceful time of my meditative 6 rains retreat. The mind just watched the breath and I allowed it to do anything, not controlling it. That was incredible insight. All those years I thought if I wanted to have peace, I'd have to make peace. Now you realize you let peace occur. The mind makes its choice and it loves peace. Dear Ajahn, in the cessation of neither perception nor non-perception, what is aware of the cessation? Awareness. Not a person, not a being, just a process. If you don't believe me, get into a state of neither perception nor non-perception, and you can argue with me then. In the second jhana, the will ceases. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Correct? Then how can one decide to come out of a second or third or fourth jhana? How does it happen? You just come out. The energy which built it up in the first place ceases. Do you decide when the sun's going to come up tomorrow morning? If you can't decide, then how does it come up? Why don't Buddhists vacuum the corners? Okay, because they've got few attachments here. That's an old Buddhist joke. No, actually. Why don't Buddhists vacuum the corners? Because they have none. You have to do it. That's more misogyny. Dear Ajahn, PTO, eh? Oh my goodness. For the record, I'm most appreciative of your teaching style. Oh, there must be something wrong here. Dear Ajahn, the Buddha taught using similes and stories too. The early Buddhist texts have recorded these too. He said that a wise person would understand the meaning, ... The early Buddhist texts are many things: inspiration, framework, and I've got to turn over now, crikey. Also, I very much appreciate the presence of the skeletal framework, big picture available in suttas, in sutta classes and sutta retreats, all helpful of having ways. And how-to manual, but also a database. The oral tradition, USB, internet listing things from them isn't equal to teachings. Crikey. This is a very challenge. A bit here. I'm probably reading it wrong. But nevertheless, that's a very deep teaching. It's nice when on the last day some teachings confound me. Congratulations. How are we going with time? Okay, not bad. Dear Ajahn, is a hyper-competitive work environment detrimental to practice? Yes. Instead of hyper-competitive, why can't people work together? That's far more productive. That's one of the reasons why I told a couple today, I said that when you get into a partnership, because I have to bless these partnerships, I say it's like two animals with their own legs. Before you get married, you can go this way and your partner can go that way. But once you get into a relationship together, especially get married, then you have to endure the 3 rings of marriage. You know the 3 rings of marriage? What's the first ring? What's the second ring? Marriage ring. What's the third ring? No, caring. So anyway, you're like an animal with 2 legs, another animal with 2 legs get joined together. Same body, 4 legs. And I told them this morning, said, they were both Sri Lankan. In the Sri Lankan tradition, the front legs have to be the man. The back legs have to be the woman. You know why? Because in Sri Lanka, all elephants walk backwards. Yeah, you can take a choice, whatever you wish. Please remind of the causes of joy in meditation. Is it sila? Sila is one of them. Kindness is one of them. And the others. Sometimes just reflect afterwards. You're in meditation. You've got no responsibilities, no duties, nothing to do. I have to be always open to answer questions of people. When I'm meditating, you can't ask me a question. My ears are closed. There's so much freedom in meditation. If you get in deep meditation, you can't be harmed. People can't criticize you. You're just sitting there. You don't hear anything. Isn't that really happy? Let alone the joy of just having a mind which is energized, and the power makes happiness. So anyway, I don't understand sometimes why, but it happens, and that's good enough for me. Your teachings of the jhana make complete sense. And thank you for pointing at the words of the Buddha to show us all where the jhanas are mentioned in many instances in the suttas. There's so many mentions of the jhanas, and that's what really sort of kind of surprised me. When you started looking at the suttas in Pali, there's many dots, but they're all referring to the jhanas again and 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 again. I'm curious, how did Vipassana teachings take hold of countries like Sri Lanka and the US? There's books about that, which is fascinating. And one of the reasons was my ancestors, the British Raj. So that's why I have to work so hard, to pay off the bad karma of my ancestors. And it was true that I think they said it was when the Brits conquered Mandalay and took control of, basically that was the holiest area of Burma. And so when they did that, one of the Sayadaws, I think it was like Lady Sayadaw, Ledi Sayadaw, he decided one of the reasons he thought that it looked like the Burma was losing its basically Buddhist culture was because the meditation they taught was just too hard. They wanted to make it easier. This is just a summary. So they decided to teach Vipassana instead of the jhanas. But even then, all the senior monks said they all knew that eventually you had to do jhanas, but you get some understanding and appreciation of Buddhism for just doing the Vipassana without any jhanas. And that's where it kind of came from. And it took over. But then you had some teachers who started saying that Vipassana is a special teaching and you can't get enlightened without it, which is a lot of Gomayang. And so then Vipassana became popular and the jhanas fell out of favor for a while. But we do have the translations in the book, we do have monks and nuns achieving jhanas, and you can see for yourself how powerful they are and how they are necessary. And so that was only a time. Now jhana is coming back into fashion again. So it should do. That's just a summary. Dear Ajahn, so to be clear, when someone is on the path to stream reading, they have magga, there is no chance of them losing this, correct? Correct. How do you know you've got magga? If you really have got magga, you can't lose it. But if you mistake what the path is, you can lose that. But anyway, please experience and understand the power of sila. Experience the power of the Dhamma. Experience the deep meditations. Then you're pretty much on the way. The problem is, once you're on the way, you can't decide not to be on the way. That's an interesting part. If you're a bodhisattva, you still have that choice. Maybe I'll take 6 lifetimes, or maybe I'll take 100 lifetimes. Once you're a bodhisattva, that choice is no longer there for you. It's going to happen anyway. Do you appreciate the problem that makes? You realize this is causes and conditions. And the causes for rebirth have been weakened so much, 6 more lifetimes at most. Then you're out of here. Is that sort of neglecting your duties? If a person was really compassionate, won't they come back again to help us? The answer is no. They can't. It's not their choice. But what they do, if you say a once returner or a stream winner, and you come back, you teach, and because your teachings are much more powerful, grounded in truth, you take many, 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 many more people sort of, into these stages of enlightenment, and you can teach much more powerfully. The world doesn't lose. The world only grows. Got more powerful, better teachers. Dear Ajahn, with deep respects, I don't want to detract from the teaching of simplicity, but if one is ill, potentially, if one has urine infection, one probably should not drink the urine. That's very deep. Well, sometimes you don't know, if you've got infections or what. But these things usually just can heal those infections. You know that homeopathy? Just to take a bit more of the same thing which poisoned you or infected you, and it heals it. I loved that teaching of homeopathy when I was a young monk. And most of the reason why was because we had no other choice. In Wat Banana chart, there was hardly any medication there. So I had a good brain, so I learned homeopathy when I was young. And one of the things I used to take was we were always stubbing our toes. And Leyden was great for that. And also many people started getting backaches. I think it was Russ Tox we used to take for that. I may be wrong there, because it's a long time since I've used those. But I remember this one monk, his mother came to visit him from Brisbane. And she wasn't that interested in Buddhism, but it was her son was there, so she wanted to visit him. And her son said, oh, she's got a really bad back. And so I said, well, try some of these little pills. And I think, oh yeah, I think that was Russ Tox. And so I said, no, make sure you don't touch these pills. You just very carefully put them in your, tap the little bottle, and put 2 or 3 little pills in your mouth, and just wait till they dissolve. It worked for her. I remember the monk, her son, telling me, thank you, Ajahn Brahm. Now she respects that Buddhism is not a dummy's religion. It actually cured her back. It wasn't Buddhism cured her back, it was like homeopathic medicines. I only did that because there was nothing else. They're very powerful. It's the same with urine. Similar. Anyway, regarding the 3rd precept and the 5 precepts, does it mean that back in the Buddha's time, since one man had many wives, this precept was not kept? Basically, yes. But sometimes men had only one wife. Like each one of you here, you men who are married, would you like to have many wives? It's hard enough having one wife. And what about wives having many men? Would that be a good idea in a matriarchal society? You wouldn't like to have many husbands? I agree with you. So anyway, that was in some places, but sometimes that if that was understood and accepted in that locality, then fine, as long as the wife and the husband, they all agreed on that. I don't know exactly how it worked, but the 3rd precept was actually not indulging in that sensuality to the point where you're breaking that vow to somebody else. So even though that might be allowed, you've all had experience, of having a girlfriend or a boyfriend. What's it like when you don't know? This is very, very sensitive stuff for human beings. You don't want to hurt people you care for. If you really want to do that, as long as you tell them. But if you tell them, do people really just tell you everything and how they feel? If your boyfriend goes out with another girl or your girlfriend has another partner as well as you, it never seems sensible to me. So anyway, I don't know what happened in the cultures a long time ago, but in the cultures today, you're asking for trouble. So just, if you're not going to be a monk or a nun, just have one partner, commit to them. And how do you actually stay a loving couple? One thing which I tell all of the people I give marriage blessings to, I say one of the most important things to do is once a year, maybe on the anniversary of your engagement or your wedding ceremony, have a private dinner, just the two of you together, or just an afternoon tea or something, and then do a forgiveness ceremony. This is what I do to every couple which I give the marriage blessing to. On the forgiveness ceremony, it doesn't matter who does it first. You tell your partner, whatever I've done, by body, by speech, or by mind, either intentional or just by accident, or things I didn't do which I should have done, which have hurt you. I really am sorry. I don't want to hurt you. I love you. So please forgive me. Then the other partner says the same. We do that as monks together at the end of the rains retreat. It's called one of the Pawavana ceremonies, asking forgiveness. I'm sure there's many, many times in my position I've said something which I shouldn't have said, done something I could have done it better. I too ask forgiveness. I mean it. If anybody can let me know, if it's something I've done, and I really mean it, so I can do better next time. This is how the Buddha said growth occurs. We can have improvements. There's no blaming, no shaming. There's just allowing a person to actually to let the other one know how they feel about what they've done. With kindness. And this lady once, I'll never forget her, she was a celebrity, had her own TV show in Malaysia. And it just so happens I was giving a weekend retreat in the town of Malacca in Malaysia, and she was going down there to organize her marriage celebrations. And she saw I was going to be there that weekend. And I was teaching a retreat, but she said, "Oh, please, can you come for our marriage blessing?" And no, she really just wanted it so badly. So okay. So I went for a marriage blessing. And it was the only time that I got into the glossy pages of a glossy magazine over in, and this one was in Malaysia, I think Malaysia Vogue or something. Have you ever been in a glossy magazine? I don't know what I was doing in it. But it was kind of cool. And she said that was the most important piece of advice to keep her marriage intact. And to help me, I remember I was giving sort of a big series of talks, and she volunteered to be the MC, which was very nice. Okay. In the modern day, there are couples who do not legally get divorced due to their children. But they know they will when the children are older. In a situation like this, is one having a new partner a breaking of the precepts? How can people like this be morally guided? It is like bending the precepts. But I know there's one couple, the Thai couple, he had a mistress, and his wife was told. She wasn't actually so happy about it, but for so many years, everyone knew about it. And that was actually much better than just hiding it. That's the best they could do. Yesterday somebody asked the relationship between name and form and the consciousness. It is deep Dhamma. Also the time you talked about it, the rain was heavy and those of us sitting in the back of the hall could hardly hear. Can you please explain again? There's something called the law of karma. If you're sitting in the back and you can't hear it because of the rain, that means because your karma is not good enough. Is that true? When was that? Oh, when I mentioned that. It was yesterday. Yesterday the talk was recorded, correct? Yeah, so it's on the talk, on the recording. You can find out for yourself. Is that a good answer? Thank you. So actually, and the reason I made that short, because it's now 20:56, 4 minutes to 9, and that was how long I was going to talk for. So you managed to have 4 minutes before the end of the Q&A. Has anyone got another question they'd like to ask? Go on. Okay.
Tomorrow with the metta meditation, is it possible to lay down? Or?
Yes.
Yeah? So just go over there somewhere and find.
Oh yeah, just way over in the monastery. No. If you wanted to lay down, I don't mind. But one of the problems with laying down is, according to some people, you should never point your feet at the Buddha or the monks. So sometimes it's very difficult because there's so many Buddhas. Actually, this is not a bad hall here, but sometimes there's so many Buddha statues in most big temples. Whichever way you point your feet, you're going to point it at the Buddha somewhere. So, yeah, for you, because you asked, yes, I give you permission. Why not? And I don't mind if you point it at me or point at those monks. Have you noticed? I noticed when I came in this evening, this used to be the brown Buddha, the brown bear. Someone's giving it a shower. Thank you. This is what happens with meditation. Everything becomes cleaner. Is that true? Where's the brown bear gone? Oh, it's gone over there. Okay. Sometimes people complain. There's only a few bears when we start the retreat. By the end of the retreat, there's a huge number. And sometimes they say you should give them the 8 precepts. Okay, I'm not going to go any further with that. Is there any other questions about tomorrow? Yeah?
If you're not feeling much joy that often, what should we be examining to understand why?
Oh, just wait for a while. The joy will come. You're already smiling. Well done. That's why sometimes it's nice to train yourself how to laugh. This one is tough. my throat's getting sore now. Sometimes what's one of the few things you're training, it makes people sort of light-hearted, and they're much more easy able to absorb Dhamma. It's a very happy path. And sometimes I remember one of the reasons I turned away from Christianity, there was not enough laughter and happiness and softness and joy.
Too much sin.
Yeah, speak for yourself. No, even if you made mistakes, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be happy. You learn from the mistakes, admit them, and actually grow from them, so you don't have to do them again. I know that once, honestly, I used to like going to church. You know what for? For marriage blessings. I used to have a good voice, believe it or not. Those of you who listen to me chanting can't believe this, but my voice was very good when you were doing the Christian blessings. And I was this cute little boy, and I was always volunteer for the blessings at marriages. And imagine these couples, they get married and they see this nice little kid doing the blessings for them and chanting in the choir. And they'd always give me a tip. And for me in those days, my father was really poor, my mum was poor, and it was what they called in West, you should understand, a nice little earner. And I never told my father why I went to church. It was to earn money. It was to earn money. And I earned quite a bit there. So that's why I went there. And when my voice broke, I never went again. I'm being honest, yeah, go on.
I was wondering, like myself, maybe others too, kind of moved away from that Burmese Vipassana stuff.
Yeah.
But is there a place still for like body sensations in your system?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's okay, it's not evil. It's just make sure. I know one of the things which people tell me, they do those Vipassana methods, and they do get peaceful and still, and they do see nimittas, bright lights when they're meditating. Yeah, but some do, and the teachers there tell them, go back to the breath. I think, what are you doing that for? Those nimittas are gorgeous, and they lead one into the jhanas. It's not a bad beginning. And you're keeping those precepts, and people, they meditate for so long. It's amazing what they do. But also just be a bit softer. And sometimes it's a bit too hard. If you have some hay fever and you start sneezing and coughing, don't just endure. Just blow your nose. Take a rest that day. And then the meditation retreat gets so much more peaceful and joyful. And also tell more jokes. Okay. So, actually, who was the person who told me the joke today about the people on it wasn't a Vipassana retreat joke, wasn't it? Who said that joke today? Come and confess. Okay, I think the joke, the story was, okay, a person, it was 4 people or something, they were in a share house, in the same place. Was it you? I see. They were in sharing a house together, I think close to a campus or something. And anyway, I can't remember it as you told me. I said, how long have you been living here or something? Who was it? Yeah, okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So can you share it with everybody?
So my housemates were saying they think the house is haunted, but I've lived here for 283 years and I haven't noticed anything.
I've lived here for 283 years, I haven't noticed anything. Thank you. Okay, I think that should be enough. That's 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So have a wonderful evening, those of you who want to carry on meditating. For anyone who gets enlightened tonight, you can stay here for another week. Is that good? Okay. And we have the usual in the morning anyway. And no more Q&As, because it's at 8 o'clock we do the metta meditation. Is that right? Guided metta? 9. 8 till 9. $9:15 metta meditation. What do you do beforehand? Nothing. Talk. Talk again. Okay. 8 o'clock the talk, and then 9 o'clock the metta meditation.
8:15 the talk.
8:15. That's late. What do we do beforehand? Noria, retreat manager, what's the program for tomorrow?
You've got there's talk 8:15 to 9:15, and then the metta meditation from 9:15 to 9:45.
What do you do before 8:15?
We have breakfast, and then a briefing.
And then briefing? Oh, okay. Am I invited to the... Sorry?
Would you like to change that?
Packing up time.
Oh, packing up. Do you have that much to pack up? Okay, very good. Okay, so have a nice evening and a nice night, and have a good sleep. And tomorrow, especially after the metta meditation, we do the photograph out on the stupa. And please, I don't want to see anybody smiling. It's a bad reputation for this retreat center. Everybody. Why is everybody crying? Because they're leaving today. Okay, good night. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. For the last time.